This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, a continuity of business solution for industries that struggle with traditional banking. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Today, we're talking to Ron Holmes. He is the co-founder and developer and director of training and product development for Ryker USA. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes, that's correct.
So I wanted to have you on the show today, and I'm glad you have time to come out and talk with us because I know you're really, really busy. But I was down recently, as many people who listen to the show know, I was down at the NRA annual meeting down in Indianapolis a few weeks ago. I'm walking by this booth, and I'm seeing this guy holding some rifles in a really bizarre way with this kind of interesting little handle that I've never seen before. And so I stopped, and I'm looking at this thing, and I wasn't convinced, when I started looking at what they have, but they invented this really kind of new grip and new method for shooting guns. And I'm like, I need to talk to those guys. So I reached out to these guys, Ron, and in your company with Ryker, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you. So here we are. So Ron, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what's your background, and then we'll get into what is a Ryker Grip.
Yeah, so I retired from Marine Special Operations in 2010. I spent the majority of my career before MARSOC was created in the Force Reconnaissance community. Prior to retiring, I had bilateral shoulder and elbow surgery. So I've got rubber bands holding my shoulders in and a bunch of screws and grafts holding my elbows together. I also have an inch of documented height loss. Post-retirement, I went to work for the government. I was a diplomatic advisor, still carrying, running a gun and carrying a gun for my day-to-day routine. And what I was finding was my support arm holding traditional methods and grips that were on the market. My arm was just going painfully numb from, neck compressions and previous injuries. Poor circulation, and which was affecting, my marksmanship and my accuracy. So I started playing around with trying to find something. When I started this, I was a one-dimensional thought where I made this for me so I could shoot pain-free on my AR platform. As we started to, develop further into the grip and further into the prototype phase, we realized like, hey man, let's put this on a shotgun. Let's put this on an AK. Let's put this on a Tavor, and then we found that anything with side mount capabilities, we could put it on and it worked. And they also found that it relieved pain and it didn't irritate or aggravate existing injuries. We found along the way it eliminates fatigue and it eliminates recoil and it removes you from the heat. So all these things combined, I started melting, plastic and cutting up other grips and everything. And then I found this moldable plastic and made a bunch of prototypes and we decided to launch the business. I actually had cancer. I had contracted for about 5 years and I had cancer and I could no longer leave the country. And that's when, my doctor didn't want me to leave the country for 2 years. And that's right about the time when we had started our business and started the whole process for inventing something and going through the patent application, patent process, and the engineering process.
Well, 1, thank you for your service. 2, you're falling apart. And 3, how's the cancer?
Oh, dude. So cancer's good. Cancer's good. I actually, because of where I was working overseas, it put me, doctor couldn't say like 100% yes, because of where you work is why you got cancer. But he said 100% it didn't help you not get cancer.
You think?
Yeah. So I actually had testicular cancer at 42. And if for men out there watching this, that's typically a disease that hits men like 18 to like mid 30s. Post that, it puts you at high risk for, other types of cancer and stuff like that. I got lucky, found it quickly, did not wait. I found a lump. It was like Saturday, had an ultrasound on Monday, had surgery on Thursday. So that was that. But it also got me a new call sign, which is my personal Instagram. That's Instructor1, because I'm down on that. In the Marines, you don't pick your call sign, you earn it. So yes.
But that's a good thing because you got it sounds like you're taking it in stride because, I actually have another friend of mine that actually went through that same process, and he calls himself Odd One Ball now. And it's kind of, it's good that you have a good, can have a sense of humor about it, because I think that makes it easier to get through such things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, the biggest thing that came out of it once I was healthy, we were trying to get pregnant, during that whole time. And what we found is that my body wasn't producing the live swimmers, and that prevented prevented us from conceiving.
Right.
So then we found I had cancer, and the doctor's like, yeah, this is exactly why you haven't been able to make a baby. So it took a year and a half post-cancer. My body got right, and we were able to get pregnant, and we had our son, who is named Ryker, and my business partners are the ones that actually decided to name the company after him and the product after him.
That's a cool story. I mean, and I really do believe that. So this grip, and this is what I like is someone, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I really am I'm a big believer in startups, and I really like to hear the stories behind the startups. And it's interesting, how I've been around this kind of industry for a long time. And a lot of times these stories and these startups are not planned. They're a response to a problem. And I can't emphasize this enough, is that, solving problems is the heart of any good business, is in my opinion. And I think people should start with solving problems first. And that's what you've done with the Ryker Grip. And so besides, I don't know, do you have a grip there handy by chance that you can show?
And this is, so I have it, here. So we've actually gone through some transitions, and we learned a lot along the way, but this was our first packaging when we launched, and we wanted it to be, we wanted it to stand out. We wanted it to be different. So we had this kind of like, iPhone-esque type packaging.
Oh, fun.
The grip was in there. This, looking, having to make changes and bold. In the Marine Corps, we're taught in, day one in boot camp on marksmanship, make bold dope changes. Don't just inch your windage over trying to get you on target. Make a bold decision. So we went with this, and then we made the bold decision to drop this from feedback we were getting from retailers that are carrying it. They're like, we love the product, people love the product, but we can't sell it because they can't see it. And we weren't thinking about that when we launched. So again, that goes back to, like we always say, is, you don't know what you don't know. Now we got this clamshell type packaging. It sits flat. It can sit flat on the counter, or it can hang. Super easy. Opens up, and this is your Ryker Grip. It comes out of the packaging set up for a right-handed shooter. It is set up for a standard Picatinny mount. Now, can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly. So, and so that bolts onto the left-hand rail if you're a right-hand shooter, correct? To the side of the barrel.
Correct. And I'll show you in a rifle behind me. So like I said, it does come set up for a right-handed shooter. And it also comes with its own Allen key. So you just back this horizontal set screw out.
I always lose those screws.
Take the horizontal set screw out, and then you can flip it around. And we like to say it's marine proof. It only goes on one way. It's a castle nut system. So it locks in, and then now you replace the set screw, and you can set it up on the right side of a rifle for a left-handed shooter.
So it's completely so it's completely ambidextrous then.
Yes. It was, and we came up with that design because in the process, we had to create the tooling and the mold and all that. So rather than just make one solid piece and have to make two different molds, one for left, one for right, we came up with this option. We felt that this was the better option. It was a lot more, it was affordable, and it made a lot more sense, but it also gives us, we have some future different type of mounts and everything like that we want to go with. And so people that have existing grips, when we release those, they won't have to buy a whole new grip. They can just buy this other, like, direct M-lock or direct key mod mount, and it'll integrate completely with their existing grip.
So currently it's on Picatinny, but you're coming out with key mod and M-lock kind of systems as well? Or does it come with all three of those now?
No, not yet. So again, this September will have been on the market 2 years. We went with the standard Picatinny because big DOD, big military, they're all still running the quad type rail. So we went with that. If you do run a slick rifle, you do run an M-lock or a key mod rail. All you need is a minimum 3-inch piece of Picatinny. It has 2 vertical set screws that'll lock down in there, and you're good to go. But we do have plans to make a direct key mod and M-lock mount, which will take about 1/4 inch of space off and put it flat directly onto the rail.
So can you explain or demonstrate why this device is better or different than a standard, angled foregrip?
All right. So traditional methods of shooting, you're underneath right here, with a broom handle or a wedge, or you're coming over the top. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a lot of tension right here on this front part of my shoulder and stressing the individual muscle group because I'm holding the gun up while trying to maintain the recoil. Now the other thing with this too is even with a glove, when you're going from your third to your fourth mag, there's a lot of heat coming off of the rifle to the point where you're going to be thinking about pain management of that hot barrel burning your hand instead of marksmanship. So instead of sitting in here also where you're crushed in, and what happened, I'll tilt this down a little. So traditional, if I'm doing that thumb over bore, and if I have body armor on, I'm really crushing in right here, okay? If I go back now and I come on up to the Ryker method of shooting, I'm not holding the gun up with the individual muscle groups. I'm pulling it back. So I'm using my whole arm, I'm using my back, and it's just allowing me to distribute the weight of the rifle better. Because I'm pulling it back in, my shoulder pocket is open more, I have better circulation, which is going to eliminate the fatigue. As I'm pulling it back with my hand on bore access, this is what helps eliminate the recoil, and it just keeps you in nice and tight. Now, if you look at the profile from here from vice before, you're open up a lot more than coming across your body like that. If you have body armor on and you're shooting a pistol, so we don't teacup a pistol, why would we do the similar movement for shooting a rifle? If I shoot my pistol like this, now I'm in the same exact position as when I shoot pistol to rifle. So I have commonality of movement. I'm doing the same thing for 2 different weapons. Instead of shooting pistol like this and then changing my whole body mechanic to a whole nother dynamic and using different muscle groups.
So the one thing that after I saw your demonstration down in Indy, I started, I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical at first. But I'm sure you probably hear this a lot, but then I'm also a guy that suffers with tendinitis pretty badly. And when I'm doing tactical turtle or doing any kind of tactical maneuvers with my weapon, it's painful after a couple hours. Like it's just, and anybody who deals with, I'm an old guy, right? I'm in my late 40s. And so anybody at my age, we're not in our 20s now, right? You deal with things like golfer and tennis elbow and things like that. I can handle doing, physically I can handle doing a whole day of training, but, when you're locking out, with doing the thumb over, I call it tactical turtle, right? Getting in there, I'm finding it's shredding my tendinitis. Will the Ryker Grip help with that for me, you think?
I believe it will. So this is one reason why we brought a PhD ergonomic specialist, on board in the developing process. And it's simple. If you think about how you bring your arms straight out in front of you, they're like this, they're not like this or they're not like this. So the whole reason why you do that thumb over the tactical turtle, all the advantages of why you do that, our Ryker Grip gives you all those advantages and removes the disadvantage. The disadvantage is that crushing in, slowing down the blood flow. Disadvantage has you on the barrel, which is going to get hot, and then you've got that over rotation of the elbow, which is going to, for you, like you said, is going to it irritates your tendinitis. I'll tell you. So 2 years ago, I actually tore my my bicep tendon. It was
Ouch.
probably
Dude, you're falling apart. I don't know what's
no,
going on.
I'm just getting put back again. Dude, I can't fall apart. My son's 2.5, so it's like there's no excuses. I'm gonna be 50 when he's in first grade.
Wow.
But no, so I tore this, and coming back, and I'm a left-handed shooter, so just coming back and I had to work through a lot of things and get back to normal. But I can tell you now that even when I shoot right-handed, with the grip for demos, or I teach a class, if I have a class, whether it's pistol or rifle, and the whole class is right-handed, I'll shoot the class right-handed that day. So what I have noticed is that from both my elbows, I've got 3 surgeries on each elbow. It doesn't irritate them. So I think what it does is actually John Wayne Taylor wrote an article, unsolicited article on thetruthaboutguns.com about the Ryker Grip. And he talks in there about the fatigue factor not being an issue, being able to shoot all day and not even recognizing the normal fatigue that he would on his joints and his back and everything. So I think it would help you a lot on that. We say it's a pseudo medical device because for guys with existing injuries, it doesn't aggravate them. We actually had a guy come by the booth at Indy. And I was like, hey, have you seen this? He's like, yeah. He goes, it's pretty cool. And I was like, you want to pick one up? And he goes, I can't. And he only had a couple fingers. And I was like, just try it. And he picked it up and he was like, holy crap. And he bought one. He's like he got it. I didn't have to, I was done talking. He got it. It gave him something back. We've had a lot of people actually reach out to us. One of the cooler stories we had, this guy was like, hey man, I went hog hunting with the grip. I got to tell you, it's amazing. He's like, I dropped half a dozen hogs in like 4 seconds. Everybody's like, whoa. And he's just like, he goes, dude, your grip allowed me to shoot from the helicopter so much better. And he went on and on. And he goes, I think this is a good time to mention that I don't have any legs. He's like, I'm combat wounded. I lost my legs in an IED blast. And he's like, it's really hard for me to stay up. And he goes, just with me propping up and everything, he goes, your grip has allowed me to shoot. We have a guy who has a double lung transplant, who loved to shoot, can't shoot because traditional methods because he's just not strong enough. He said our grip's giving him the ability to shoot. So it's, again, those are some of the things that when we, like I said, I was one-dimensional when I invented it. I was thinking AR, and for me, just so it didn't hurt me when I would shoot for work or for pleasure, right? Or, competition. And then along the way, I never thought when we started this journey, I would get a letter from a guy who has cerebral palsy and says, I have never been able to competitively shoot a rifle because my left arm is, shorter and my hand is in a fixed position. He goes, your grip has now allowed me to shoot rifles competitively. So it's like.
Well, it's like the side effect, right? This is that accidental use case, right? You say, okay, this is for me. I'm being selfish. I'm solving my problem. But then come to find out, there's a lot of other people that got a problem that this solves too. And I think
Yes.
the disabled shooter market, I think, is big, and or just the old fart market like me, right? That's just kind of beaten up over time. So I think that's really amazing, and I'm really excited. Now I got to get my paws on one of those. But I think, outside of just people that are disabled, is there a distinct advantage, and you think, for actual combat situations, or is it too bulky? What are you finding right now? You've been in business like 2 years now, or it's been in the market for a couple of years now. Is it DoD approved? Is this in combat zones currently? What are you finding the feedback is from the actual field?
So from prototype through production, we're now over 3 years on the ground in combat, 5 countries, with all the top people you would think are using this downrange. We don't have the official endorsement from anybody yet, and most of the people that are using it, we would not be able to get an official endorsement from them, just due to the nature of the mission statement and all that. It is when we made this, materials and manufacturing are all 100% United States. It's all pressed, assembled, inspected, and shipped out of Virginia. and it is all ITAR compliant. We made it with the materials are the DoD standard. I think I believe it's called NE66. It's a nylon infused polymer,
Right.
which is what all all accessories that touch DoD weapons have. That's their minimum standard. So
Right.
we've done everything we needed to do to be that. We are currently working, potentially working some getting into a couple of DoD contracts. And so what we have found in our feedback is we actually use it when we're doing demonstrations and introducing people to the product, is that we say the heavier the gun, the higher the caliber and or full auto, you will recognize the benefit of the grip instantly. The heavier the gun, it disperses the weight. It makes the gun not seem as heavy because you're using more muscle groups. You're not using individual muscle groups. The higher the caliber, it's just going to help you control that recoil. And the same thing with full auto and full auto suppressed. Those heavier guns, and then just those long trigger pulls, it really just allows you with a better upper body mobility to maintain an improved recoil platform. The guys that have been running it, they like it. There's guys that will swear that, I know that there's a team out there they have them on all their saws, and they won't shoot a saw without it. The nice thing about it is that, traditional saw, the guys would have to hold underneath it or broom handle, and that drum gets in the way. So the grip now puts you around, but it also allows you to manipulate that heavy rifle a lot better. We also hear this a lot from our professional warfighters, our law enforcement, and then just other clients. They're like, I don't care if I'm faster. It feels better. It just feels natural. So we do have a 96 round course of fire that we created to help us some statisticians. And what this course of fire measures is speed and accuracy. You start at the 10-yard line. We have 3 targets that are approximately 21 and a half feet apart, and we make an 8.5 by 11 B zone. And we flip a coin. Heads is grip, tails is no grip. And on the buzzer, two shots center, 2 shots left, 2 shots right. On the buzzer, 2 shots center, 2 shots right, 2 shots left. We record that data, whichever went first, then we run that again. So you run that 4 times, we throw the first one out, and then we just collect all the data and put it in that way. When we did the initial testing on that, we did 20 random people. We had some Marines, variety of Marines that came out and shot. We had some law enforcement. We had some competitive shooters. We had some just gun owners, just like, yeah, I own a gun, but I hardly shoot. And then I had a couple absolute beginners. That random little potluck of 20 people that ran it, we averaged a 13% increase in speed. Accuracy was maintained or improved.
Well, that alone, I think, would be pretty significant to any government contract if that's the case. And that really gets me excited. So would this kind of grip be useful for, competitive shooting? Would it be prohibited, by any, like the 3-gun competitions, things like that?
I've right now I don't know where it's not the only thing that where the grip is prohibited right now, I think, is like Connecticut and New York, and that's just because they don't allow accessories on rifles. But I used to competitive shoot a lot, and one of the things that bothers me about competitive shooting is all of the rules.
Right.
And if someone's going to tell me like I can't use this on my rifle, makes me think back when Air Jordans first came out, and I'm sure you remember, and they tried saying that Michael Jordan had an unfair advantage because his shoes had air in them, and it made him jump higher than everybody. And fast forward, 25 years, half the guys in the NBA and colleges are wearing Air Jordans. So. I just think it's funny if people were say like, oh, it's not legal. Why is it not legal? Explain to me why it's not. But we haven't had to cross that road yet. Now I will say our first 2 sponsored shooters are Alpha Addy, who's now 11, and Pineapple Shooter. Alpha Addy's out of Texas, and Pineapple Shooter, who's 12, is out of Florida. Alpha Addy was competitive shooting, and she was tiny at the time. She was 10, and she was having trouble holding up her rifle and shooting accurately, under stress. We launched the grip. They bought the grip. She dry fired for a week. She went out and she took 60 seconds off her course of fire time for rifles. So she now, fast forward, she's now sponsored by F1. She has her own signature rifle, own pistol. She's sponsored by Snake Eater Tactical. So yeah, both girls are sponsored shooters now. And they started, the one thing that they have both said to us and their families have said to us is that the grip helped them get to that next phase. So if an 11-year-old girl can take a minute off her time, I think that's a pretty bold statement.
Well, that means that someone in the Army can at least take 20 seconds off then.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, one of the things we found too is.
All right, it was a joke. So I'm guessing it looks pretty straightforward, but is there a learning curve to using this? Is there training that you need to go through to learn how to use this, or is this something that I can just pick up and start shooting with?
So the learning curve is one mag, just, some, ready ups, up, pop, some single, some double, pop, and then you transition to, side to side. So we like to say one mag of up, single, double, triple up downs. And that second mag gets them side to side, 2-3 targets, 2 rounds each target. So you can start to see what it's like to drive that front sight using that thumb to point where you want your bullets to go. After that second mag, you got it. You got the Ryker method. You got the Ryker grip down, and it's not coming off your gun.
Very cool.
I run all of our classes. I run everything from, North Carolina concealed carry permit, 3 levels of advanced concealed carry. We do a lot of, basic carbine, all of anything in our, in our inventory that focuses on the rifle uses the Ryker method, the Ryker grip. At the midway point through a training day, it has now become so organic to you that guys they're not even thinking about it anymore. It's just automatically their hands going there. I'll tell you this too, is this, you go out there and you shoot, even we do a demo and I run you through 3 or 4 mags, you're holding the grip the whole time. And I'm like, hey, go ahead, grab the rail right now. And you grab the rail and you're like, you didn't even know it was that hot. No glove, no heat. The grip does remove you from the heat.
So you keep mentioning rifles. Is there any application to put this on, say, a pistol or an AR pistol, things like that?
Here's a shotgun. But so AR pistols. So I can tell you on this is that it 100% is not a vertical foregrip. It does not fall into the vertical foregrip category because it is horizontally mounted, and that is how our patent is written. So the grip is horizontally mounted, and right now it has been with the ATF. It has been with the ATF since before we launched. Then I think right before SHOT Show this year, the ATF came out with that thing that said they will no longer test products without them being on the weapon you want them tested for. We're pretty sure that had to do with us. So we had to they sent the grips back. We sent them an AR pistol with the grip on it, and we're still waiting to hear back. We actually did. It's not an easy system to navigate. So right now, it's not illegal because it's not a vertical foregrip. So it does not fall under that category. We do have on their pistols. We've got a handful of our clients that run that CZ Scorpion, right, and shoot competitively with it, and they swear by it. So yeah. So right now, like I said, that's what I told you, is 100%. It is not a vertical foregrip. It is impossible for it to be put into that category. That's the biggest thing. So we're calling the category. The category is the Ryker grip. We're first to market, so we get to name it.
So I just wonder, if the ATF's going to try to throw it in the AOW kind of category, because that's what they do when they don't like something, but they can't put it in a box. But you guys don't know if that's the case or not yet, right?
No. So, and again, in American bureaucracy, nothing is fast. But we actually have, our hand was kind of forced, and we have elevated this. We have one of our elected officials in the state who's helping us monitor the progress. with this. You know, what we were told is it went from their R&D section that does these tests to the desk of the secretary of the agency, and went from him to the attorney general's office, and all their lawyers were looking at it. Then at that point, right when it got to him, the attorney general had gotten fired, and then the government shut down, and then all this, and then they had to restart. So, and then they came out with this new policy. So we are back at ground zero.
Well, that sounds like lots of fun.
Yeah, so in the meantime, again, it is 100% not a vertical foregrip, does not fall in that category. So, yeah, it does work on AR pistols.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on the show today, Ron. Where can people find out more about the Ryker Grip?
So, www.ryker, RYKERUSA.com is our website. You can go on there. If you want training, you want demos or something like this, if you want to be a dealer, just email us on there. We get back to you. We're pretty quick. There's about 5 of us that are touching that all day, every day. We'll get back to you. On Instagram, we're Ryker USA. Facebook, we're Ryker USA Inc. And Rob, because of you, we now have a Twitter account. You told me I need to get a Twitter account before today, so our Twitter is Ryker USA. I stood it up the other day, and I'm checking it and learning about it, and I haven't really mastered the Twitter yet, but
I'm mastering the Instagram myself, because I've been on Twitter a long time I'm just at Rob McNealy on Twitter. And I only recently set up my Instagram, a couple weeks ago, I think, that I started really using it. And it's definitely a little bit different, but if you got one down, I think it's kind of, a lot of easy crossover. So Ron, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we found that Instagram has been the easiest, but it's been the best for us to kind of get a reach out there. One of the things that we have, we've run into an issue with is that doing paid advertising on any social media platform right now with anything firearms related
doesn't work.
It doesn't. So for us, it's just like we're, stuff like this. Thank you for having us on this podcast, because this is going to help us hopefully, a few more people and drive some more people to the website and get interested in our product and what we got. And again, this is version 1. We've got quite a few different versions that we want to come out with, that we are going to come out with, and we're working a bunch of stuff in the background. One thing I've learned in this journey is don't ever give a date. Don't give a date, because someone's going to hold you to it.
Exactly. And trust me, I can relate to all of that. And, especially, the only thing that the social media platforms hate almost as much as guns is crypto. So when you're doing a gun crypto related project, you can't advertise anywhere. So I definitely can feel the hate coming from that, but that's a whole different show we'll do. Make sure you keep us in the loop when you got new products coming out and new versions and colors and things of that nature. And we'll get you back on the show.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Ron. You have a great day.
You too. Look forward to it. And thank you again.
Thank you for listening to the Rob McNealy program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcnealy.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.